We went to Mr. Chambers' house, and he was looking for a flashlight. He could not find one, and he turned on the yard lights. We then went out into this field, and he picked up several pumpkins and put them back down. He picked up one. He says, here is what you're looking for. I reached in and pulled out the material.
I am holding in my hand a microfilm, a very highly confidential, secret State Department documents. These documents were fed out of the State Department over 10 years ago by communists who were employees of that department and who were interested in seeing that these documents were sent to the Soviet Union.
This forced the government's hand, the Justice Department hand, and they put the case before the grand jury, predetermined at this point to indict Hiss, to come hell or high water, and they did.
I hope the American people will realize the debt that they owe to this jury, to Mr. Murphy, and to the tireless and splendid efforts of the FBI. Nor should they forget Congressman Nixon of California, who almost single-handedly forced the House Committee on Un-American Activities to pursue the Hiss investigation.
The Hiss case was the thing that made him. The Hiss case was the thing that brought him to attention.
Of one university is one communist too many. One communist among the American advisors at Yalta was one communist too many. And even if there were only one communist in the State Department, even if there were only one communist in the State Department, that would still be one communist too many.
Chair declares Richard M. Nixon the Republican nominee for Vice President by acclamation. May I have the temerity to congratulate this convention on the selection of their nominee for Vice President, a man who has shown statesmanlike qualities in many ways, but as a special talent, an ability to ferret out any kind of subversive influence wherever it may be found, and the strength and persistence to get rid of it.
Nixon's campaign through the course of the senatorial contest in 1950 looked to me to be just more of the same that he found to be successful in defeating Voorhees in 1946. Red baiting, pure and simple, and character assassination.
Well, Murray Chotiner was Richard Nixon's manager in that campaign. As the manager, he came up with a number of the ideas. Probably the most controversial idea was the pink sheet. This was Helen Gahagan Douglas's record in Congress printed on a pink piece of paper. The implication that people got from that was that she was pro-communist.
Nixon was trying to leave the impression that somehow Helen was soft on communism, if not a communist or a subversive, and that we were fighting communists in Korea, and somehow Helen was significantly responsible for the deaths or the injuries that the American fighting men were sustaining and suffering in the Korean conflict. Throughout his entire political career, Nixon has almost without exception supported a position that advanced the interests of the very well-to-do, the most powerful of the economic interests in this country. I don't think he's done this because somehow they put in the fix, and I don't think that's important. I don't know if he really believes what he's been doing, but he's been very consistent about doing it. The fact of the matter is that he's carried the mail for them, and the further fact of the matter is that they recognize it, and have contributed substantially to any campaign that he's personally been involved in.
Haven't we got a wonderful candidate for the presidency of the United States?
I'm Jimmy Wexler. I'm now editorial page editor and columnist for the Post. In '52, I was in charge of the news department of the paper. At the time the story came in, it was filed by our West Coast correspondent, Leo Katcher, and it seemed to be quite a big story, although I don't really think we anticipated what its repercussions would be. In fact, I can remember now, sort of whimsically, that instead of making it what we call the wood, the big page one head, we had a line on top of page one, which I think read something like, "Reveal Nixon Fun." And it blew up very fast, of course, and the essence of the story simply was that there was a group of industrial, financial people, real estate, and other special oil interests in California who provided what I guess we referred to editorially as a fund for the care and feeding of Richard Nixon.
General Eisenhower issued the following statement: "I have long admired and applauded Senator Nixon's American faith and his determination to drive communist sympathizers from offices of public trust. There has recently been leveled against him a charge of unethical practices. I believe Dick Nixon to be an honest man."
What he did was to say to me, in effect, "Dick, take your case to the American people. Bring out all the facts. Tell the truth. And then we will make the decision as to what should be done."
I think most of us had the sense, particularly those who traveled the campaign train, that there was a very great tension there, that there was not the great father-son relationship that's been subsequently depicted, and that there was a moment when Nixon was very close to the exit. I really believe that the decision was ultimately based on the response to the soap opera.
You are about to hear a report from Senator Richard Nixon, nominee for the office of Vice President of the United States. The senator has interrupted his nationwide campaign tour to be with you tonight for this important message.
My fellow Americans, I come before you tonight as a candidate for the vice presidency and as a man whose honesty and integrity has been questioned. Now, the usual political thing to do when charges are made against you is to either ignore them or to deny them without giving details. I believe we've had enough of that in the United States, particularly with the present administration in Washington, D.C. To me, the office of the Vice Presidency of the United States is a great office, and I feel that the people have got to have confidence in the integrity of the men who run for that office and who might obtain it. I have a theory, too, that the best and only answer to a smear or to an honest misunderstanding of the facts is to tell the truth. Do you think that when I or any other senator makes a political speech, has it printed, should charge the printing of that speech and the mailing of that speech to the taxpayers? Do you think, for example, when I or any other senator makes a trip to his home state to make a purely political speech, that the cost of that trip should be charged to the taxpayers? Do you think when a senator makes political broadcasts or political television broadcasts, radio or television, that the expense of those broadcasts should be charged to the taxpayers? Well, I know what your answer is. It's the same answer that audiences give me whenever I discuss this particular problem. The answer is no. The taxpayers shouldn't be required to finance items which are not official business, but which are primarily political business. Well, then the question arises, you say, well, how do you pay for these, and how can you do it legally? And there are several ways that it can be done, incidentally, and that it is done legally in the United States Senate and in the Congress. The first way is to be a rich man. I don't happen to be a rich man, so I couldn't use that way. Another way that is used is to put your wife